This week, some 200 plus survivors of sexual assault or abuse, including several who have accused Donald Trump of sexual abuse and misconduct, joined advocates and community leaders in posting a full-page ad in the New York Times. Together they wrote, Donald J. Trump was found liable for sexual abuse in a court of law. He is a proven abuser. This is not a matter of opinion. It is fact. A second Trump term would pose multiple dangers to our democracy, not least of which is the dangerous daily message it would send through his presence and his policies that sexual or gender-based violence of any kind is normal, unavoidable, and something the American people should accept. The group Survivors for Kamala also hosted a Zoom call this week to mobilize support. And joining me now are three of the more than 24 women who came forward with their stories of sexual abuse by Trump. Jessica Leeds, Natasha Stoynoff, and Amy Doris. Thank you both for being here. Thank you all three for being here. Jessica, I will start with you. Why do you think it was important for women to come together and speak out against Donald Trump becoming president again?
Because this is an important issue. This is something that should not be swept under the table any longer. This affects people through their entire life, and it's just unnecessary.
And Donald Trump has attacked yourself, Jessica, as well as E. Jean Carroll. Let me play that real quick.
But as far as I know, I never met her. I never touched her. I would have had no interest in meeting her in any way, shape, or form. I know you're going to say it's a terrible thing to say, but it couldn't have happened. It didn't happen. And she would not have been the chosen one.
It is just extremely gross that he says the chosen one. And I want to ask you what you think that means. And also, before I do that, let me play somebody who does believe you, or at least who did, J.D. Vance.
At a fundamental level, this is sort of a he said, she said, right? And at the end of the day, do you believe Donald Trump, who always tells the truth? Just kidding. Or do you believe that woman on that tape? No.
Jessica, your thoughts?
Well, I did find the term chosen one a little bit bizarre, but this is his M.O. It has been his M.O. since he was probably a teenager, or even before. I wasn't the first. I wasn't the last. It's just amazing he's gotten away with it. I would like to have some part, stopping it. So that's why I'm here.
And Natasha, let's talk about sort of the wider implications of this. I mean, Donald Trump, who has about 24 accusers at various levels of sexual abuse, he is an adjudicated sexual abuser in the case of E. Jean Carroll. He also put one of the 3 justices on the Supreme Court, one of whom has also been credibly accused of sexual abuse. And those are the 3 who caused half the population to lose their civil rights. Those are the people who stripped women of abortion rights. What message do you think it would send if, after all of that, he is sent back to the White House?
It's telling our next generation of women that we don't care about them. We don't care if they're abused. We don't care if they have any independence over their bodies. It's taking us back to another time and throwing us into a Handmaid's Tale. It really is horrifying. It's like a nightmare. And I assume you're talking about Kavanaugh, but I'm also thinking we had on the Zoom the other night Anita Hill, and I remember very well watching those hearings for Thomas, and it's like nothing has changed. And we're telling women, you have to go back. That's what we're saying to them.
Yeah. I mean, Amy, I do think about that sometimes, that 2/3 of the 6-person right-wing majority on the Supreme Court that decides whether women have any rights at all, whether LGBTQ folks have any rights at all, whether you can have mifepristone, 2/3 of that 6 have been accused by women, credibly, of some sort of sexual misconduct. That strikes me as a pox on America and on our judicial system, but I would love to know what you think.
Are you asking me about that?
Yeah, Amy, yes.
Okay, sorry, I thought you said Amy. Okay, yeah, so yeah, I think it's astonishing that we've allowed this to happen, that we've allowed this man to get into the White House in the first place after women did come up in 2016. And then you've got more people who've had people come against them. and credibly, like you said. And now they are basically controlling what we do with our bodies, and they're telling us what we can do with our bodies. And we know they don't respect our bodies, and they don't respect us as women.
Yeah. And Amy, I'll start with you. Do you think that Donald Trump is a personally dangerous person?
Absolutely. You know, I spent 4 days with him in a row. And this is a man who doesn't take no for an answer. And that's something we really need to pay attention to. He did not say no to any of us here on this call or any of the other women who came forward, and probably many others that are not coming forward. Then you have the election in 2020. He did not accept no from the American public. He did not win that election. He does not know how to take no for an answer. That's like the bottom line. It's really simple. And why would we hand this guy the codes? Like, why?
And Natasha, I mean, this is somebody who also partied with Jeffrey Epstein. This is somebody who was known to, was described by many people as a friend of his. None of that has really been aired out. You know, we've heard some of your stories. You all have been brave enough in some cases to make ads talking about your awful experiences with him. But why do you suppose that there's been so little adjudication of his own personal history and the potential danger that he poses to women, when the things that he said in the Access Hollywood video he did, including to some of you?
I think it's a combination of people are afraid of him. Women are afraid to speak out. We all of us, Jessica, Amy, and the other women, we have dozens and dozens of women who approach us all the time telling us the same thing happened to them, but they are afraid to say something. And I think there's a group of Americans who really don't place importance on any of what you just described. Now, are you going to mention the new accuser who came forward? I don't know if you
we
are.
don't have, NBC News has not confirmed that report, so we don't have that just from a journalistic and reporting point of view. But I know that on that call, there were, you know, however many women, if you could just describe that call, Natasha, how many women were on that call who had had personal bad experiences with Trump?
Well, we had maybe 3 or 4 of us, and several were watching as well. Alva was a panelist along with me, but there's a Jeffrey Epstein link, so I don't know if I'm allowed to say anything about what this new woman has said on the Zoom. Am I allowed to for you? In her story that she described, which made us all very emotional. We were all crying because it took us all back to the moments where he grabbed us. It's Jeffrey Epstein who actually took this woman up to Trump Tower, where, as she described, the assault happened. And she described it.
Yeah, and again, we're out of time, and everyone's trying to run down that story. We have not done that at the NBC News side, so I just have to make that disclaimer that we don't have that from a reporting point of view. But we know your stories, and we've heard them, and you've been brave enough to tell them. Jessica Leeds, Natasha Stoynoff, and Amy Doris, thank you all for your bravery and for speaking out. And that is tonight's ReidOut.